Hello, World Wide Web. Welcome back to the Hangin With Web Show. I'm GW Pomichter. Thanks for logging on and tuning in. If you haven't done it yet, we'd really love it if you went down and hit subscribe. We love it so much, we'll wait. You do it good. All right, thank you so much. Make sure you come back over and over again and check out some amazing artists, authors, filmmakers, comic writers, creators of all kinds here on the Hangin With Web Show. We are here at ICCCon 3 in Cocoa, Florida, hosted by Terrence Baker and the Independent Creators Connection, and we're hanging with comic writer John Crowther. John, thanks for hanging with us, man.
Thanks for having me.
Really appreciate it. Now, you are the writer of Rochelle.
Yep. Formerly Rochelle the Teen Cockroach.
Rochelle the Teen Cockroach.
Yes. Now, she is still the Teen Cockroach. We just took that part off as we moved along.
Rochelle the Teen Cockroach.
Yes. Yes.
There were a lot of critters and creatures out there. You chose a cockroach.
Cockroach. And for a very valid reason.
Well, you know what? There's no time like the present. Validate the hell out of that.
Okay. Reason I did that is I wanted to teach kids when they read comics, because I've tried to harken back to the days when comics were fun. Not as much seriousness as you see in a lot of the comics that are out there today. So I wanted to target kids, and I wanted them to understand that just because something is different than us, or someone is different than us, it doesn't mean they're bad. It doesn't mean they're worse than us. It just means they're different. So you take an innocent teenage girl, and you combine her with what most people think is the most disgusting thing out there, a cockroach. But where does she get her superpowers from? The cockroach. So even if you look at a disgusting cockroach, you'll find that even cockroaches have positive attributes as well.
They'll live forever.
They will. The only fear they've got is sunlight.
Yeah, that's true.
Or a boot.
That, you know, not enough of them are afraid of the boot.
Yeah, exactly.
They're not smart enough to be afraid of the boot. Their life cycle is too short.
Yes.
If they could pass on the information about the boot, I'm sure that it would scare them.
But they regenerate pretty quickly.
You no doubt. Yeah. No doubt. So
that's my first series.
And now you have more.
Yes, I do. Now, Rochelle is published by Antarctic Press.
Okay.
But once I created Rochelle, I was also, back when I was a younger kid, I was a big fan of professional wrestling. So word got out about Rochelle, and I was put into contact with, initially, a gentleman by the name of Nikolai Volkoff. So for those of you who know wrestling, Nikolai, he won WrestleMania 1 with the Iron Sheik as a tag team wrestler. So started talking to Nikolai, and from there...
Dina's just nodding over.
You like wrestling? So you're going to love where I'm going with this.
Okay.
So I talked to Nikolai, and we agreed to do a miniseries biographical on his life story. His defection from Yugoslavia, came over to the U.S., and then his rise all the way up to the Hall of Fame in '05.
Wow.
From there, it continued to grow, and currently we have a Kickstarter for the Killer Bees, Brian Blair and Jim Brunzell. We are working on a book for Hacksaw Jim Duggan. For those of you who know wrestling, you'll know a lot of these names. I see you're loving this.
I'm old enough so that I actually, when I was a young teen, I was interested more.
Okay, so
Dina follows it still.
Okay,
reads
so
about it, but Hacksaw Jim Duggan, even I know.
Okay, everybody knows Jim Duggan. Oh, you know.
Yeah.
So and from there it's continuing to grow. Most of these are guys that were big in the 80s and 90s. We just signed a contract with the Rock and Roll Express, who just went into the Hall of Fame about 3 months ago. We've got one coming out with Bobby Fulton and the Fantastics. Lanny Poffo, we're on the artwork now. He's the brother of Macho Man Randy Savage, for people who don't know.
Wow.
Jack Swagger, who was recently in the WWE. We just started work on his, and we're currently in negotiations with Jake the Snake Roberts. So a lot of people know Jake. So we're having a lot of fun. So not only am I writing comics, I'm getting to harken back to my younger days. It's like living a dream.
You get to fan out.
It's living a dream. Nikolai actually flew into town back in April and stayed at my house, met my parents. He's doing karate with my dad in the family room.
Wow.
And it's a dream.
You get to tell the internet. You know, that's pretty cool. How long have you been writing?
2 years.
2 years.
2 years. And
you just woke up one day and you said, you know what, success is just too much for me, so I'm going to become a writer.
I'm trying to find something else to do. No, but it's actually an interesting story too, because I was always a fan of comics. I used to come to cons like this all the time, and I always liked to write, but I never had the courage to actually put myself out there and try to do it. So there was a gentleman by the name of Del Barris. For people who know comics from back in the day, Del was an artist that broke into the industry in the 70s with Conan the Barbarian. And from there he went on to the Blue Beetle, and then he got into animation. He did Transformers TV show. He did Spider-Man for Stan Lee that was on Fox. I was a fan of his work, so I wrote him a letter, had never met him, wrote him a letter, told him the idea about Rochelle. He wrote me back and said, I love the concept, I'll come out of retirement, let's do it. So that was 2 years ago. So
that's like the best letter to get back.
Exactly.
If you're a comic fan and you write your favorite comic producers and they say, hey, let's work together, you've had a really good day.
Yeah, absolutely, absolutely. And he hooked me up with AC Comics, for those of you who've maybe heard of FemForce, AC Comics and Mark Heike, and they agreed to publish Rochelle. This was about 2 years ago, year and a half ago, as an issue 0 on the back of FemForce. And
as a new creator, only 2 years into this journey, what would you, who, by the way, been amazingly fortunate.
Right, so absolutely, yeah.
What has the transition been like, though? What was the most difficult thing about diving into this world for you?
I think trying to find the time, really, because I never realized how time-consuming it would be when I look back, because I do have a regular day job. And
yeah, well, you know, the great thing is that no one's ever going to not get your contract right.
Right, yeah, true, very true, very true.
In fact, if you're an independent creator, because no one is ever going to give him a contract and he's going to go, yeah, sure.
Sure, no problem.
Yeah, no problem. That's not going to happen. So, you know, you'll get the good contract.
Yeah, exactly. Or I'll draft it myself.
Yeah. Well, they'll be calling each other on the phone going, oh, no, send him the good one.
Yeah, exactly.
Send that Garrett guy the bad one.
But I will be honest, I have been very fortunate. I mean, it's most people who are out there trying to get in the business, they don't have the luck, really. I can't really say it, but I have another word for it.
You've warned anybody about coming into this?
Self-doubt.
Self-doubt.
Because I think if you really want to do something and you love something, you can do it. I tell people who come to my table and they hear my story about how fast things happen, because I didn't get to go on to it, but with AC, we ran that first one and we were discovered by Antarctic Press, which is one of the larger independent publishers out there. They're out of San Antonio. They offered me a contract, mailed me a check, and signed me on with Rochelle. And this is only a year and a half into me doing anything. So what I tell people is you can't have that self-doubt, because think of it this way. If you write a script or you have some art and you show it to 100 people, and if 99 people tell you no or tell you you're horrible, but one person tells you yes, you just made it. You're a success.
Absolutely.
And I think people too often hear negative things or they think negative things and they immediately give up and they don't try any longer. I think that really is the biggest pitfall for anybody.
You have to grow a kind of an outer shell.
Absolutely.
Because, you know, if you're a creative person, for every one person that loves what you do, there are two that just couldn't get into it. Yeah. They didn't like it, they didn't like the style, they didn't like the character, they didn't like the art. There's something about it that just didn't speak to them. But that one guy,
absolutely,
that one person that actually said, hey, you know, I really liked that. That's why we do it.
And I'll tell you, there's no better feeling than having that person walk up to you, and I've had it happen a couple times today, and look you in the eye and tell you they loved your work. I mean, just to know that you've actually been able to touch someone like that, whether it be a kid, with usually what happens with the Rochelle books.
And it wasn't even his mom.
No, it wasn't even my mom, and she tells me she loves me every day.
See that?
But it wasn't my mom. But even if it's a kid that usually comes up for Rochelle, or an older person that'll walk up and say, hey, I remember Nikolai, I read your story, this is great.
That's awesome.
To be able to touch those people and know you've made an impact.
Where are you headed up the road? Where's your next convention or appearance, or where are you going to be?
I have to think in order. I'm going to be at Tampa Bay Comic Con, which is the end of this month. Following that, I'll be at Infinity Con, which is over in Orlando.
Yep.
And I know I'll be at Claremont Comic Con in November.
You're making the rounds.
So I'm making the rounds. I try and stay as much as I can in the Central Florida area. Awesome. I know there's something being lined up, one up in Savannah, Georgia, and one up in Alabama. Those are going to focus more on the wrestling books, though.
Wow, terrific. So. Well, that's my shut up card. That means we've been gabbing too long. So as I do that, we want to say thank you to our partners and friends at Some Unique Magazine, Space Coast Comics, Wordfire Press, Famous Faces and Funnies, and Off the Chain Radio with author Yvonne Mason. I'm GW Pomichter, folks. We have been hanging with comic writer and the creator of Rochelle, formerly Rochelle, the
Teen
Teenage Cockroach, and John Crowther, and we've had a great time. So guys, if you want to see more and more of this kind of stuff, hit subscribe, log on, tune in, and see who we're hanging with next.